Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem for OTN, and today we're going to be discussing some of the scare tactics which took place just last night and are probably still ongoing concerning the flotilla which is bound for Gaza, and they're getting ever closer. We are with our guest, Sister Yvonne Ridley, a journalist and author. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam, Bilal, and it's great to see and hear your voice today.
Well, it's great to have you. Sis, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. The first thing, what was last night like?
Last night, I think, was a bit of Israeli psyops. You know, they try to get into your head and destabilize. And basically, what happened, about a swarm of drones, maybe 20 or more, descended on the Summit Flotilla. We are berths quite a distance from them, but we can see them. And these drones were coming really close in and then moving back again, and really unsettling the activists. There's more than 500 of them, you know, on these boats. And so, as per their training, some of them took to the social networks and said, the Israelis are here. And of course, we've got so many people following our progress. They picked up on this and they ran with it. And by the time it got back into Scotland, my husband called me and said, have the Israelis boarded? And I said, no, but, you know, this is the talk. And then we discovered that it was just a PSYOPs operation.
Right.
And
Right.
the drones were very real. And there was a large Israeli gunboat hovering around. That was very real. But nothing happened. And so we, you know, had a meeting on our ship. It's you know, everybody's very calm and reasoned, and I just thought, well, you know, there's nothing to do. We may as well go to bed and get some sleep. And woke up this morning and saw a great big massive container ship on the horizon, but it's nothing more than a container ship.
Right. Right.
You know, somebody said, oh, is that the prison ship that Ben Gavir was threatening us with? But it was just a container ship. And that's the trouble, you know, you begin to doubt your own eyes and what you're seeing. And but
Right.
we reckon that if the Israelis are going to do anything, they'll do it tonight. But they know that the world is watching. Any act of piracy or hostage taking is criminal and a war crime under maritime law and international law. So either the world watches and does nothing, and we get taken hostage, or the world grows a spine and slaps down on this vile little rogue state and tells them to stop doing what they're doing.
This morning, it was around 5 a.m. It was before Fajr prayer. And I checked on one link, and there were about 53,000 people that were watching the boats. I checked another link. There were more than 200,000 people watching what happens on the boat. Those are only two links that I clicked onto, and I'm certain that there are dozens of others. You've got millions of people probably around the world who are watching what's happening there. Tell us, what is your current situation? How far are you from Gaza?
You know, our flotilla has captured people's imagination. Not since Helen of Troy have so many ships sailed across the Mediterranean. But these are ships that are sailing in peace, and we're on a peaceful mission. And I think that the general public knows this. And there's something compelling about live news, isn't there, Bilal? You know, as it's breaking. And I know that before we left Libya, everybody wanted to have a selfie taken with myself and Margaret, another Scot on board this ship. And I said, don't get that excited. They just think we're going to die. And they want to say, oh, we've got a picture of that person that drowned. But yes, there is something compelling about live breaking news. But I would urge all the viewers, instead of just watching and waiting for something horrific to happen, pick up the phone to your politicians, pick up the, start a petition, start banging pots and pans, and let's have some civil disobedience wherever in the world you are to try and stop this rogue state. I mean, to put it in context, we are talking about the actions of a country which isn't the size of a South African game park, yet it holds the President of the United States to ransom. It's holding America to ransom. And, you know, people can't even find the state of Israel on a map. So, putting it into context, this tiny, nasty little state is holding the rest of the world to ransom, and it's got to stop. You
Now,
know,
tell
all
me,
we want to do
how far? I'm sorry. How far are you away from Gaza? How long do you think it would take, if there are no interruptions, for you to reach Gaza's shores?
if we went full steam ahead now in our boat, we could probably get there in under 2 hours.
Okay, but you're not going full steam ahead.
No, we're not. But we are on course to go to Gaza to deliver aid. That's what we came to do. You know, we just want to give baby milk to babies. What is criminal about that? And yet you look at the pompous invective on the social networks, and suddenly the activists are interfering with a peace deal. The Israeli Foreign Ministry, which has a long distance relationship with the truth, now says it has found documents linking the Summit Flotilla to Hamas, which
Right.
is absolutely ridiculous. And it reminds me of all the false intelligence that came flooding out during the war in Iraq, when we discovered that fake news about George Galloway being in receipt of barrels of oil. And of course, that led on to his famous appearance in Washington, where he tore apart the Congress and the committee and rinsed them. But, you know, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has got to be more inventive than saying it stumbled across by accident while it was in Gaza some documents that prove that the Summit Flotilla is funded by Hamas. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, the
Actually,
next
I
thing they'll
saw.
be saying is that we've got a tunnel under the bloody ship. You know, these people are lying.
I've seen reports. I've seen reports that they're floating pictures of George Galloway as another person who is basically behind the whole affair, wherein George Galloway made a statement that he has no connection to the flotilla. The other person who they're saying, they're using another name, that I am not that person, but they're using my picture. So it's very, very silly, I'm going to say, on the Israeli parts to use a picture of a man like George Galloway, who's completely known around the world, and trying to confuse it with someone else. But I'd like to go back to something. Um, is it your intention to try to reach the shores of Gaza during daylight hours or nighttime hours?
Well, we're hoping to get there in daylight hours. You know, the sun is our friend, but the moon can also be our friend as well. So, um, Israel never operates in sunlight. It doesn't like the glare of publicity, forensically examining its lawless tactics. And it really is under the microscope at the moment because there are court cases pending in the International Criminal Courts for war crimes. They know how serious this is. They tend to brush these things under the carpet and pretend they're not bothered. But trust me, they do not like the war crimes threat hanging over them. Uh, Netanyahu is having to be very careful where he travels these days. And we are getting friends from all sorts of quarters. The president of Colombia wants to raise an international brigade, you know, like in the Spanish Civil War, and go full tilt into Israel. I don't know how far he's got with it, or whether it was just words from a bellicose leader. But these are strange times, Bilal, and anything could happen. What should
Tell me, what
happen?
is this? I'm sorry. What is the status of the ships that were basically traveling with you? I'm talking about the military vessels from Italy and Spain, particularly, and the Turkish drones. Are they still with you? Who's still with you? What's the status?
Well, the Italian and Greek ships have gone now. Um, they committed themselves to escorting us safely to this point in international waters, and I can't see them now. I think that the Spanish ship is still with us. They said that they would be there until we had delivered our aid. Well, we haven't delivered it yet. And that's the whole point of this mission. It isn't to see how close we can get to Gaza, it's to deliver life saving aid to babies that are dying. Just this morning, I got some news of a baby that had died in one of the hospitals, not through being shot or bombed, but through starvation. And this poor little mite took its last breath. And I'm just thinking, you know, if only we could get our food to these children. We've got 6,000 sachets of highly digestible, high protein snacks, and maybe that could have saved that baby's life. We'll never know. But all I know is that we can save lives with our aid, and yet we're being impeded by this rotten little state that isn't the size of a South African game park.
Yes. Now, I'd like to switch the channel just a little bit to Trump's 21-point plan. Now, uh, Donald Trump has basically said that they have 3 or 4 days to respond. When he was asked about is there any room for negotiation, he himself said not much. And so this doesn't appear to be a peace plan proposal, but more of an ultimatum. Does that change your calculus in any way?
Um, I've gone through the 21-point plan. It's absolutely toxic. It's been drawn up by a convicted felon and a man wanted for war crimes. You know, between the pair of them, between Trump and Netanyahu, uh, these are two criminal entities, and you just can't trust them. But they have been allowed to draw up this 21-point plan for Gaza without consulting a single Palestinian. And of course, the monafics, as I call them in Ramallah, have turned round and said, oh, yes, we approve this plan. You know, what sellouts they are. They're absolutely disgraceful. I was remembering the last time I was in Ramallah and I met Yasser Arafat. He would be spinning in his grave over this. It's a formula to sell out and ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people, remove them from Gaza, and Trump just wants to push ahead with his prime real estate. But you know, my response to that is that Trump has these 3 golf courses in prime areas in Scotland. And how would he feel if we suddenly decided in Scotland to requisition these golf courses and turn them into homes for refugees? You know,
Well,
without consulting him. He wouldn't like it, and yet he can go and steal land in Gaza, land that is dripping in blood. And who does he get? Who is he earmarking to be some sort of colonial governor of Gaza? Tony Blair, the man who created 1 million widows in Iraq with an illegal war with George Bush. You know,
I,
the reaction in the Middle East has been one of laughter. They can't believe that Tony Blair is being brought back, sort of presented as a solution. Tony Blair's name is mud in these parts.
I need to ask you a question. They know full well that Tony Blair has no credibility. They also know full well that it would be very difficult to actually formalize the occupation and sign an agreement that would basically put Donald Trump as the now leader, de facto leader, and Tony Blair, the de facto leaders of Gaza. So, in your estimation, why did they present this peace proposal, if we can call it that, because I cannot imagine that Hamas could accept it.
I don't know, frankly, what Hamas will do. Um, you know, they must be quite torn between the Palestinians are really on their knees and at last gasp. You know, they're in the last chance saloon, and they're absolutely exhausted physically and mentally. They're a nation that has been bombed, starved, denied water, denied power, moved from pillar to post at the drop of a hat, and they are completely rinsed out. I've been living out of a suitcase for the last 4 weeks, and it is driving me crazy. And I'm, you know, I'm not being bombed or starved. In fact, I'm being very well fed. You know what Arab hospitality is, and this, and it was with good reason that I chose to go on an Arab ship.
Right.
In this flotilla. The food is good, the coffee is good, the company's great, but I'm, you know, still worn out, living out of a suitcase. I don't mind sharing with everyone that, you know, I haven't had a proper shower for about 2 weeks, and I really, you know, am feeling it. But not that I'm asking for anyone's sympathy, but if I can't stand this sort of lifestyle, I don't know how the mothers in Gaza are coping, trying to they are the glue that keeps the family together. And how they're coping, I really don't know. So
I'd like to ask
quite
you a
whether Hamas will accept this deal or not, I don't know. But 20 Arab nations have said that they should accept it. And,
Okay, all right,
it's.
but there are a couple of things that have to be borne in mind with the Arab nations. Number one, these are the same Arab nations who stood by and watched as a genocide took place. So I'm just not thinking that they have much credibility with the with the Ummah or even with Hamas, because most of those countries, Saudi Arabia at the head of them, would like to just get back to doing business with the Israelis unimpeded. So I'm just not sure how much that's going to sway Hamas.
Well, we're in the position we're in today because we have weak leaders, and we have leaders who are further away from Allah than they've probably ever been in the history of Islam. And, if they believed at all in the spirit of the brotherhood, the spirit of unity that our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tried to instill in people, then this wouldn't be happening now.
Right.
It reminds me of going to the circus, and everybody in the circus waits for the lions to come on, and they see the lion tamer with his whip and his chair, and everybody is entranced because everybody knows at any 1 minute that lion could turn and take out the lion tamer. The lion tamer knows it. The whole circus audience knows it. The ringmaster knows it. Everybody knows it, apart from the lion. And the lion is the Middle East. And we just need the lion to rise up and roar and and reclaim its power back. What's happened to the sailing on the Omar al Mokhtar? Where are the Omar al Mokhtars of the world today? Where are the Khalid bin Walids? Where are the Salahuddin Ayyubis? We have the greatest role model in our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we will march if anybody draws a cartoon from him, and we'll get very angry if someone burns the Quran. Well, hell, now is the time to get angry. 2.2 million of our brothers and sisters and our Christian cousins are starving to death in Gaza. And if you will get out of your bed and burn an American flag and chant death to whoever because somebody chooses to burn a Quran, but you'll not do anything for 2.2 million of the Ummah starving, what the hell is that all about?
Right.
We need the Arab world to rise up and do more. And
When you say the Arab world, are you talking about the Arab populations, or are you talking more about the Arab governments?
well, the rulers aren't going to do it. The rulers are too comfortable. They're eating their 24-karat gold shawarmas. They're belly dancing in front of the West. They are completely seduced by Western culture. They're not going to change their comfortable lifestyles. They just don't seem to realize that their time on this earth is limited. If they live until they're 80, that's a long time, but it's not in the history of the world. It's just a blip. And yet
Right.
on the other side, they've got eternity, and they'll have eternity to think about their inaction. No, I want the ordinary people in the Arab world to rise up. You know, they've got no hope at the moment. They're living in fear. They've got chains around them that they can't see. And they're holding themselves back through fear. You know, we are taught as Muslims to fear no one but Allah. And we have to rise up against this shitty little country that isn't the size of a South African game park. And yet it is holding the whole of the Middle East to ransom. And as I say, it's like the lion and the circus and the lion tamer. We all know that if the lion so minds to get up and crack down on the lion tamer, it can.
It can. Now, sister, I want to just go to some of the comments and questions that are here. We've got MO546 who says, do you think Spanish or the Italian warships will intervene in case of an attack? Now, the Italian warship has broken off. Do you think that in the event of an attack, if an attack is imminent, do you think that the Spanish warship would intervene?
I don't know. All I know is, and I wouldn't call it a warship either. But it has the capacity to start a war, I guess. Um, we are protected supposedly under international law. Um, we're a humanitarian aid ship trying to deliver aid, and if we are attacked, they are duty bound under the Geneva Conventions and other maritime laws to intervene. Now, what that intervention means, I don't know. All I know is it is a NATO ship, and we know the ethos of NATO: an attack on one is an attack on all. So Israel would be insane, although it is insane, but it would be insane to fire on a NATO ship. So the Spanish have the authority, the moral authority, the high ground, the world backing them to intervene as they see fit. Now,
Right.
what instructions the captain has had, I don't know. We're not privy to that. As with Syria, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in the corridors of power that affect all of our lives and make our leaders act in ways that are totally alien to us. So it would be nice if they did intervene.
I'd like to ask you something. This is for my consumption. Coming up next year, there are congressional and Senate elections being held in America and in other Western democracies around the world. Now, a lot of those countries, their leadership, I'm talking about their prime ministers and such like that, are Israeli friendly. Do you think that after the last 2 years, plus what's going on now and the famine, do you think we're going to start to see government makeups actually change? Do you think it's going to make a difference at the polls?
I would love to think that. I know for a fact that even the MAGA brigade in Trump's America do not like the thought of Israel wielding so much influence and power over their politicians. Similarly, in Britain, you know, we see what happens in America, and we see the cancer of Zionism infecting our own government. So I think that the next elections are going to be incredibly interesting. However, it will coincide with the rise of the far right. And the rise of the far right is finding fertile ground with working class white people saying to them, all of your problems are down to migrants, when in
Right.
fact, all of their problems are down to the filthy rich getting richer on the back of the poor. But it's easier to pick on a part of the population that has nothing, which is the migrants. And they're whipping up the working classes, which also has nothing. And
Right.
they've somehow convinced the working classes that the people with nothing are going to steal their nothing if they don't get rid of the migrants. And
Right.
it's pathetic, but people cannot see what we can see, and it's how they've managed to divide and conquer people that way is people with nothing versus people with nothing are not going to get anything. And it's the same with the Arab world. I mean, in Egypt, we had great hopes over the Arab Spring, but the left in Egypt was so splintered and divided. They put up about half a dozen candidates, when realistically they never had a chance of one candidate emerging as a winner. And that's how they ended up with Morsi, who I thought was a good guy anyway, but he was very much like Jeremy Corbyn. He couldn't see the enemy within, and he brought in Sisi and promoted him, and brought a cuckoo in the nest.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be far more strategic in the choice of our leaders.
Right.
And I'm looking in particular at the Syrian leader. He's suited and booted and sounds like a Westerner, looks like a Westerner, but it's time he remembered who he is. He's one of the grandchildren of Omar al-Mukhtar. And he needs to remember that. He needs to go back to his roots and remember where he came from, and believe in Allah. We have got such a brilliant blueprint for life in the Holy Quran. And we have got a history that is second to none. We've got the Battle of Badr, 313 men, and there were women as well, who rose up and defeated an enemy against all the odds. That's when the lion knew that all it had to do was roar. And now the lion has been castrated, and people are fearful, and they're tied by their own chains of fear.
Right. Well, sister, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to try to stay in contact with you, because we're really, really hoping that you'll see the Gaza shoreline today while the sun is still up.
Yeah. Well, I hope so too. And I'm just wondering if I can unplug this phone and it's go out, so you can see what's happening outside.
Wow, that's a beautiful sight right there.
I think the flotilla is straight ahead. I'm pointing the phone towards Egypt and Gaza.
Right.
And I don't know if you can see, but there are little blips on the horizon, and that is the Samud flotilla. We're still floating, we're still rising, and we're still resisting. Pray for us.
Dr. Yvonne, we have to get ready to go, but I want you to say one last thing. If you could send a message to the world right now about the humanitarian mission that you're on that you think they don't know in about 60 seconds, what would it be?
Please don't let any more Palestinian babies die through starvation. It's 2025. Look at your young ones. What would you do to help them and keep them healthy? Please do the same for our Palestinian brothers and sisters. They've suffered enough. We have to help them.
Okay. All right. Jazakillah khair. We have been with journalist Dr. Yvonne Ridley, and she is aboard the Omar Mukhtar vessel, which is bound for Gaza. And we pray to Allah that you will have a safe journey. Ameen. And I am Bilal Abdul Kareem for OGN. We will definitely, inshallah ta'ala, be following this up in the coming hours. Hopefully, we'll get to see the Gaza shoreline. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Free